All right, today we're in section 9.8. 9.8, simple interest. All right, and the first thing we need to know is the formula. Go ahead and write in your notes the formula. I equals PRT. I equals PRT. All right, I stands for what? Oh, that was so weak. I stands for interest. P stands for principal. R, rate, and T for time in years. So what happens if my time is in months? I have to figure out how much of a year that is. So I always divide the months by the years to get a decimal value. And I want you to round to the nearest hundredth on those whenever it's a decimal that extends past the hundredths place. All right, so that's my formula. Now in example 1, it's a two-part answer, okay? And it says that Tim's parents lend him $250 so he can buy a radio-controlled airplane. They charge him 7% annual interest, simple annual interest. So what is the total amount that he will owe his parents in 1 year? All right, now on your homework tonight, these problems are going to be two parts. One, they want to know what the interest was, and then 2, they want to know what the final balance was. So we always start with our formula. I equals PRT. Now we start plugging in the numbers where we think they go. Anybody think they see the value for P? What's my value for P, Peyton?
Not 7%, but $250.
$250, because remember, my P value is my initial amount. Are you paying attention? Are you looking up here? My P value is my initial amount that I'm either investing or borrowing. So $250 is my P. Do you see an R value? Okay, good. So 7%. Oh, wait, is that how I'm supposed to write it? No. What did I forget to do? I forgot to write it as a decimal. Okay, that's a very common mistake. So make sure that you write your percent as a decimal before or when you plug it into the equation. Do I know time?
Yes, 1 year.
Time is a year. Okay, so now I have all the pieces to figure out what the interest is going to be. Go ahead and figure out your interest. All right, anybody find interest? What's my interest? All right, very good. $17.50. So that's my first answer, is my interest. Okay, now how do I find my balance? I add my interest back to my original principal amount. So $250 plus $17.50 gives me how much? And 50 cents. So that's going to be my final balance. All right, like I said, these problems on your homework quiz and test, they're going to be two-part. I want to know the interest and I want to know the balance. All right, you think you can solve one? Yeah? Yeah, of course. Yes, you can. All right, so we're going to try one. Go ahead and do this first problem. We'll number it number 1. Okay, go ahead and solve this first one, number 1. If you deposit $1,500 into an account that earns 4% annual interest, what will the balance be after 9 months? All right, we start with I equals PRT. What do we plug in for I? Do we know?
No.
No. What's my P? 1,500. What's my R? 0.04. And what's my T? Okay, so if I plug in 9, it's going to think I mean 9 years, but I don't. I mean 9 months. So what do I have to do? I have to divide 9 divided by 12 and get that decimal value, and it's 0.75. Now I can multiply all of those together to get $45. That's my first answer. All right, now how do I find the balance? I add it to 1,500, and my balance is 1,545. 1,545. Who got both of those? Okay, good. All right, now in example 2, we're finding the interest rate. So let's see what the problem gives us. It says you deposit $900 into an 8-month certificate of deposit. After 8 months, the balance is $1,000. Find the simple annual interest rate. So again, we start with RI equals PRT. What are we solving for? Which variable? We're solving for R, which means that the problem gives us the values for all of the other variables. All right, so what about my value for I?
900.
What's it going to be? My value for I. What is my interest? It doesn't just come out and say, your interest is this, but I can use the information in my word problem. I don't know if anybody remembers what we talked about. Okay, what was it? I heard somebody say it. Jacob, how'd you find 100? Okay, very good. Because how much did I initially invest? How much? $900. How much did I have 8 months later? 1,000. So where did that 100 come from? That's the interest that I made. Does that make sense? Okay, so you subtract the numbers. Now, the common mistake that I see here is people just take this end balance right here and they say, oh, my interest is 1,000. No, it's not. It's not 1,000. It's the difference between the starting balance and the ending balance. All right, so now what is my original principal amount? How much did I invest? $900. We already established that we're solving for rate. And what is our time?
8 months.
8 months. So I plug in an 8? No, what do I have to do?
8 over 12.
8 over 12. Okay, so put 8 over 12 in your calculator.
0.6 repeating.
Okay, it's 0.6 repeating. So what did I say to round to? The nearest hundredth. So we're going to say 0.67. Okay, 0.67. Now what do I do? Can I simplify anything?
Yes.
Can I simplify anything over here?
Yes.
Yeah, I can. 900 times 0.67 gives me 603R. 100 equals 603R. Divide both sides by what?
603.
Okay, very good. Now that's going to look a little goofy, but that's okay. Now R equals 100 divided by 603. All right, it's going to be a long repeating decimal. So whenever we have a repeating decimal, we round to the nearest what?
100.
Thousandth. Now, it's going to be, okay, so we round to the nearest thousandth, 0.166, okay, because the 8 rounds the 5 up. So 0.166, which is approximately, since I'm rounding, 16.6%. Okay? Now, if you round just a little differently, let's say that you rounded to the nearest hundredth instead of thousand, I'll probably take that answer. But just make sure that you are rounding appropriately, that you're rounding correctly. Okay, so I want you to do the second one now. You try number 2. You deposit $1,800 into a 2-year certificate of deposit. After 2 years, your balance is $1,950. Find the simple annual interest rate. All right, so what is my interest? What is my interest?
150.
150, because I subtract my beginning balance and my end balance from each other to get $150.
1800.
Okay, so 150 equals, what's my principal?
1800.
1800. Don't know my R, and what's my time? 2. Okay, so I don't have to do anything because the time's already in years on this one. Now, what is 1800 times 2?
3600.
Okay, so now I have 150 equals 3600 R. How do I solve for R now?
Divide by 3600.
Divide by 3600. And you say, well, that looks goofy. I know, but it's still the right way to solve it. Okay, so now 150 divided by 3600.
0.042.
Okay, it's going to be a repeating decimal. R equals 0.0416 repeating. So if I round to the nearest thousandth, what does that 6 round the 1 to?
2.
A 2. So it's going to be 4.2%. 4.2%. Some of you said 4.17%. That's close enough that I would accept that. Just remember, we're rounding to the nearest thousandth on those repeating decimals, and then we change it over to a percentage. All right, so that's it for example 2. One more example. Okay, in example 3, we're just solving for a different part of the equation. I equals PRT. Okay, so now it says you put $750 into a certificate of deposit. Your simple annual interest rate is 4%. You receive a check for interest at the end of each year. How long will it take you to earn $150 in interest? So now, what is it asking us to solve for?
Time.
Time. How long? All right, so if it's asking us to solve for time, it means that we know the value of all the other variables. So what would my interest be?
750.
No, what would my interest be?
Oh, I'm sorry, 100.
150. 150. What is my principal amount?
750.
750. That's the initial invested. What is my rate? 4%, but we change it to 0.04, and I don't know the time. Okay, now what do I do? It's very similar. You multiply what? You simplify what?
0.04 times 7.
Very good. Okay, so 750 times 0.04 gives me 30. So 150 equals 30t. And divide both sides by?
30.
So how much time?
5.
5 what? 5 months? 5 days?
5 years.
5 years, because simple interest is always calculated in years. So it's going to be 5 years. Okay? All right, if you understand that, that's everything you need to know for section 9.8.